The K-Bay belief is discontinued, but here's why you should still care. Hi guys, Bright Audio Reviews here, and today we will be reviewing the K-Bay belief. And just like all of my reviews, this being the first one, I'll be reviewing the belief with its stock cable in stock configuration first, meaning with stock cables and stock tips. And then only I'll talk about third-party tips and cable rolling. Now, this review will be split into 3 parts. Number 1 is Tonality, number 2 is Technicalities, and the last part, number 3, I'll talk about my favorite tips and cables to pair with the belief. Now, the source used for this review is number 1, the i5 Zendeck with its non-GTO firmware. You can't see it, but it's there. And Sony A55 running Mr. Walkman's A50 V2 classic firmware. RIP Nujabes. And keep in mind that both of my sources are warm sounding. Also, do keep in mind that the K-Bay belief needs a good amp, a good quality source to sound good. If you do not have a good source, just skip this IEM. And with that out of the way, let's start the review. First, let's talk about its tonality. Now, the overall sound signature of the belief is warm. It is warm, smooth, and laid back. It has what is described as a warm U-shaped sound signature. Now, what that means is that bass and upper mid / treble is more focused than its mids, as the mids here are slightly recessed. Now, in terms of bass, the bass itself is thick and meaty, without being overly emphasized in any way. It isn't the fastest bass out there, nor is it the slowest. It has a good amount of decay where after bass hits, you can feel the bass first before it goes away. It isn't those kind of bass that is super tight, fast and punchy, but it is more of a relaxed, laid back kind of bass that is never fatiguing yet never lacking. In my opinion, its decay is at a sweet spot where it is fast enough that it doesn't bleed into the mids, but at the same time, it isn't too fast to the point where the bass just comes and goes away before you can feel it. Now, the best way to describe its bass is that it is warm, meaty, and tube-ish like. Yes, tube-ish like is the way that I'll describe the bass. To my ear, bass here it's present in a very natural way, and I love it. However, I find that sub-bass can be lacking at times, especially with modern hip-hop tracks that have quite the amount of sub-bass rumble. Now, when listening to that kind of tracks, I find myself wanting more sub-bass rumble, more punch, more kick, and just tighter bass in general. But honestly, other than modern hip-hop tracks, the bass here is great and I love it. And also, this problem can be easily fixed. More later in part 3. Now, in terms of mids here just sounds absolutely amazing. Like, ever since I've gotten this, the K-Bay belief, it has become my most used IEM, and that is because of how much I like its mids and timbre. Now, just like the bass, its mids are warm and meaty. Not by a lot, but enough to make vocals sound fuller and detailed. These are my favorite IEMs for vocals, period. Its timbre is the most natural of all IMs I've heard, like strings instruments, piano, trumpets, cello, all just sound like they should. Now, instruments are also very well separated with a good sense of space, but I'll get more into this during the technicalities part. However, the mids here aren't perfect too, as the lower mids are slightly recessed. Now, this is not a big problem for me, but it is worth mentioning. Just like its bass, I find that the K-Bear Belief do not work as well with modern sub-bass heavy hip-hop tracks. I find that on certain hip-hop tracks, and by certain I really mean it, male vocals can sound a bit too recessed and slightly hazy. Now, this rarely happens and only happens with certain tracks, but for the sake of transparency between me and you, I'll mention this bit. Now, let's talk about its treble. The treble here on the K-Bear Belief is just great. Like, it is very inoffensive and it is very hard to find fault for its treble performance. The treble here, it's sweet, it's sparkly, it's detailed and very well extended. Okay, not super well, but well extended with good amount of air. It is non-sibilant, cymbal crashes sound good, and like mentioned above, it is also pretty detailed. Honestly, nothing to complain about here. K-Bear Belief nailed its treble performance. Great job, K-Bear and Larry. Next, now let's talk about its technicalities. Like mentioned just now during the mid section, K-Bear Belief has pretty good instrument separation, and that is all thanks to its great technical performance. Now, imaging on the K-Bear Belief is just great. It isn't laser focus imaging, but I can easily and effortlessly tell where the instruments and vocals are at. It is so good to the point where these now become my gaming IM of choice. Soundstage is also pretty wide for an IM. Like, imagine a studio room, but slightly larger. Not to mention, soundstage depth and height is also very good. Like, this allows instruments to be nicely separated and articulated around its sense of space. Now, in terms of detail retrieval, it is good for a DD, for a single DD. Just don't expect it to be as detailed as a PA. Overall, the K-Bear Belief's technical performance is very good. In fact, other than detail retrieval, it is actually better than the Moondrop Blessing 2 does. So take that for what it's worth. And on a side note, P2 does review incoming. Now, let's move on to my preferred pairing with the K-Bear Belief. Now, honestly, every complaint that I have about the K-Bear Belief can easily be fixed by tape and cable rolling. If you are like me and you find the Belief to lack sub-bass, rumble and lag punch, just change its stock cable to the Yinyoo Neotech cable. With this cable, bass becomes tighter, punchier and better extended. Sub-bass rumble can actually be heard now. And if that's not enough, you can actually change the tips to its included KB Ear A07 tips, which tightens up the K-Bear Belief. With that tip, bass gets tighter and more textured, mids are crispier and slightly more open, and highs become sparklier. Now, my cable pairing of choice with the K-Bear Belief is with this Yinyoo Neotech cable that I just talked about. With this cable, bass become tighter, it makes the bass punchier, tighter and deeper. Bass is also better extended with very good control. Mids sound crisp and clear. In fact, the haziness that I mentioned just now with hip-hop tracks is actually gone. Highs are also very well extended too. Air is present and well controlled. It is also a very open sounding cable. Like, it makes the K-Bear Belief's already great soundstage and imaging even better. Now, regarding the tips, my favorite pairing with the K-Bear Belief, it's still... Wait, let me just try to put this in. Okay, where was I? Okay, regarding the tips, my favorite pairing with the K-Bear Belief is still the stock tips. The stock tips sounds best to me in my opinion. Now, how would I describe the sound of the stock tips? Well, it is very balanced, smooth and open sounding. Like, nothing is overly emphasized. If you find the stock tips too smooth for your liking, you can actually change it to the included KB Ear A07 tips. Like as mentioned above, these tips tightens up the K-Bear Belief, but opens up the mids by a bit. Bass is tighter and more textured, mids become crispier and highs become sparklier. So yeah, my preferred pairing with the K-Bear Belief, it's this. Oh wow, this is such a mess. It's this. The K-Bear Belief with Yinyoo Neotech cable and stock tips. Now this combo really brings the K-Bear Belief to a whole another level. Like, these are now my favorite IEMs. In conclusion, K-Bear Belief is an outstanding IEM with great technicalities that punches way above its price. Its tonality might not be for everyone, but there will never be a tonality that is for everyone. Everyone's preferences are different, and if you are a fan of warm U-shaped sound signature, the K-Bear Belief is for you. Problem is, these are discontinued. However, if you're able to get your hands on these, like, just do it. It is 100% worth it. Also, like, at the time of this recording, an Amazon store is still selling these for 180 USD, I think. So if you're interested, you know what to do. That is all from me. If you like this review, please do give it a like, subscribe, and let me know down in the comments. Also, do let me know what should I review next, and if there's demand for it, I will do it. This is Bry Audio Reviews, signing out.